In this lesson, you will learn about the midpoint formula. Let's take a look at some examples that explain how to use this formula. Why do we use the midpoint formula? If you look at this graph, you will notice there are two black points with a line between them. You want to use the midpoint formula to find the point midway between the 2 points, which would be that blue point. Now you can probably see that if you could actually see the ordered pair for that would be 1 for x and -3 for y. But it's not always that obvious. In fact, many times the x and y values of the ordered pairs are fractions. So let's take a look at the formula that helps us determine the exact midpoint. This is the midpoint formula. To figure out the midpoint between two given points, you will add the x values of the ordered pairs and divide it by 2. And that gives you the x value of the ordered pair of the midpoint. Then you simply add the y values and divide that by 2 to get the y value of the ordered pair that is the midpoint. Now we could already see here in this particular problem what the midpoint is, but let's verify it using this midpoint formula. To do that, we want to actually write down the ordered pairs of our two black points. So our first ordered pair of the higher point would be -1, -2. And then the second ordered pair of the lower point would be 3, -4. So if we label these, this would be x1, y1, because that's the first point, and x2, y2. Now, again, we already know the midpoint is 1, -3, but let's just verify it using this formula. So to find the x value of the midpoint, we're going to take the x's and add them together. So the -1 and the 3. So -1 plus 3, and then we'll divide that by 2. So if we do that, we would get 2 when we add -1 and 3, and then 2 divided by 2 is 1. And notice that matches what we expected it to be. Let's now do the same for the y. If we add -2 and -4, and then divide by 2, what do we get? Well, -2 plus -4 is -6, and -6 divided by 2 is -3. And again, notice that matches our expected y value. So if we did not have a graph and wanted to find the midpoint of these 2 points, we can use the midpoint formula, which gave us for this problem 1, -3. Let's take a look at the next example where a graph is not given. Here we have points 3, 10 and 3, 3. And again, we want to know if we were to graph these points and draw a line between them, what would be the ordered pair of the midpoint? So let's pull up the midpoint formula again. We're going to label the points x1, y1, and x2, y2. Then we will plug in our values. So we will add our x's together, which would be 3 plus 3, or 6, and divide that by 2. And that gives us 3 for the x value of our midpoint. Then we will add the y's together, 10 and 3, which is 13, and divide that by 2. Now notice 13 cannot be divided by 2, so you would just leave that as an improper fraction. Or if you wanted to make it a mixed number, you could make that 6 1/2 for the point of or the purpose of graphing. So many times for the midpoint, your x and y values of the midpoint will come out to be fractions, and that is fine. And that completes the lesson on finding the midpoint of 2 points using the midpoint formula.